Hello, hello. Monday morning, June 9th. My name is Paula. It is Stroke Survivor Sunrise. It is a Monday and it is Aphasia Awareness Month. Aphasia Awareness Month. Well, I am a stroke survivor diagnosed with aphasia, as well as a few other issues, if I call them, in regards to from my stroke and damage from ischemic stroke in March of 2020. And I go live every day, and this is new for me. But going live, I think, is important because you can see it's not edited, it's not altered. This is my conversational voice. I am able to communicate again. I couldn't speak, and that was amongst other things. Couldn't write, couldn't use my fingers. And I really worked very hard. I think aphasia and that diagnosis really, in itself, it is so difficult to, one, accept, and two, to fight back. This is the hardest thing I had ever done in relearning how to get my brain to organize itself, get my brain to organize. I made it do that, but through hard work. Oh, I just noticed the microphone's not on. So I wanted to bring up Aphasia Awareness Month today, and we'll start right out, as I have been recently, on daily practice. One of the ways to get your communication back and get your thoughts in organization format is putting out together flashcards, and they're phrases or words that you need to work on, or that you need to work with. I know I couldn't find my cards, but I got a bunch. Here's one. Thanksgiving. That was really tough to say. It's multiple syllable word. I have so had difficulty with W's, so I wrote a bunch of W's out. Wiscasset. I put some cities, like that's a city, and my mouth didn't want to form it. But certainly we all might be familiar with this one. It may be backwards, but February, and eventually, certainly more W's, window, and not to forget neuroplasticity. That's been a tough word to be able to say, neuroplasticity. And it still takes practice. And I still do my Abilex, A-B-I-L-E-X, every day for dysphagia and dysarthria, for getting my mouth to help form the words. But it's the brain that I'm working all the time. And I came across something this morning that I'll share with you about why I work so hard to communicate again. And that's because a piece of me was gone. And you become yourself. This is what it said. When you work on 4 things every day. And that's your mindset, your character, your personality, and communication. Well, communication took a priority in my life, but I'm looking at recognizing that was because of aphasia and losing the ability to communicate. When I lost the ability to communicate, this is the other portion of today about expression. Showing an over-expression, overly smile, overly squinting your eyes and grinning, overly expressing your struggle through your facial expressions, through your hands, through your gestures, is so important. We become actors and actresses when we lose communication. What I mean by that is we don't have a part to say. We can't say it, but we need to express it. So we become stage actors that we need to express in some way. And it's the joy. We want to express the joy and show our care partners and people around us that we're happy. But also the concentration level is so intense when we're working sometimes. And we get a lot of that, those concentration lines in our face. And the grimaces and the angst is real. And it's definitely should be expressed so our care partners and those around us are aware that we're struggling. And I'm trying to figure out, it's not to make them back off, but caution, I may blow up. And in the sense of be getting angry, it's not necessarily against them, it's against the frustration of getting our mindset, as we talked about, but also maintaining our character and personality, but getting to communicate, and that process of our aphasia recovery. It's most unusual process, in my opinion, where communication just comes so naturally for so many people. It's not, it got stolen from us in aphasia, for those with aphasia. Whether it was a stroke or a brain injury of some sort, fighting to get it back is the process. I mentioned the flashcards. That's an important part. And educating people. I was on a Zoom meeting yesterday with a group of people that from around the world that I'm connected with through a course. It has nothing to do with stroke recovery, nothing to do with healthcare. It has to do with momentum and positive feedback. So there's a few people that I was connected with, and we seemed to connect together, maybe a dozen of us. And one person actually commented how wonderful on the Zoom calls, how expressive I am. That's an incredible compliment for an aphasia survivor, as she knows nothing about aphasia except the little bit that I've told her. As getting communication across through Zoom and other formats can be through expression, because you're on the stage. You don't have anything to say. The person across from you maybe, but you need to show appreciation for them being there, or you should show appreciation or understanding that what they're doing. It's like, oh, I get that. And without actually saying words, because that was taken from us. So that's part of the process of communicating again with aphasia. So I've learned, and I'm very appreciative that someone addressed that in my yesterday Zoom meeting, as I have brought that forth. Hopefully, I believe, wishing you that you are receiving some feedback from me today. I'm going to let you enjoy your day. Of course, please, wishing you a wonderful day, and repetitive and neuroplasticity, and do some flashcards. Have a great day.
Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday. I actually think I'm a minute early. Anyways, I'm here, and my name is Paula. It's Aphasia Awareness Month. I am a stroke survivor diagnosed with aphasia, amongst other dynamics of changes in my life. I learned how to speak again. I worked very hard at this. This is why I'm celebrating with you that we are aphasia stroke survivors or brain injury. Aphasia is caused by a brain injury or a stroke, generally speaking, and it is a language inability to communicate. And you see me use my hands a lot because I have become more from the focus of coming back to myself. I had to use more communicative skills. I'm bringing up different ones every day. So I want to continue on my marching a little bit and help you notice what I'm doing. I'm doing my marching, but I'm doing what's called a cross-body movement. By doing a cross-body movement with my marching, everybody, if you can't do this, you do this sitting down or you do just your shoulders. The idea is to go to the other plane, go from the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere, and help the brain reignite and recreate some pathways between the two, the right and the left hemisphere. In regards to our struggles, most of us have had brain injuries that are dominant right or left, and this is helping that communication come back. Ultimately, that's the goal in that process. bringing that up. It's about communication skills and language. And I want to bring up the daily practice for today. And the daily practice for today is more about the speech generating devices. And what I mean by that is I did communicate the augmentative alternate communications, ACC, and the apps that are out there and the programs that are available. What I'm bringing up today is the voice assistant applications and devices. And for a lot of people, they're using them now. They're called Alexa, Siri. They're the buttons on your phone that you can just speak into them. What I'm saying is don't use them. I know that sounds so crazy. What I'm saying about don't using them is they really can be very difficult for stroke survivors. With aphasia, we have a difficulty with communicating what we need to say. We can't always find the words. So I'm saying don't use them. Because, for example, I was in a meeting the other day and someone had, with aphasia group survivors, and she had difficulty finding the word toes. And I get it, because I remember holding a blanket and kept calling it a towel because I couldn't get the word out. I know it's in my head, but I couldn't get it out. And that also reminds me of the flashcards yesterday. This is still my daily practice to some degree. The flashcards yesterday, you can add all your body parts and start reading them. We all know that song, head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Well, start writing them out and doing flashcards of eyes and ears and mouth and nose. The more we say it and the words aloud, the more the pathways are being created. And that's why I'm recommending adding those to your flashcards from yesterday's daily practice. But today's daily practice is the avoidance of Alexa. I unplugged mine. I couldn't. Not until I could say a complete sentence. And that's what I want to bring up. Saying complete sentences was a goal for me at the beginning, and I had communicated that through scribbled notes the best I could to my speech therapist. My first speech therapist is wrote complete sentence. Because saying a word has no context, especially in these devices that are out there. Those press the button and just say, "Show me maps of the United States." Well, we can't say those words. So what I'm recommending to you is to similarly do that with the flashcards, but maybe write it down on paper, because there are sentence and common sentences such as, "Isn't it a beautiful day?" I bring up a question mark because I remember at the beginning of my aphasia, I say beginning, probably 2 years before I could actually understand, because people speak in a way as though they know they're asking a question, but they're not. When someone said to me, "I'd like to know more about aphasia," I didn't know they were asking me a question that they'd like to know more about aphasia. I thought they were just making a statement. People speak that way. They don't speak in ways that they're actually asking a detailed question. So that's why it's, in my opinion, there's also that dynamic in communication, because there's an assumption of a question as opposed to a perfect question. Aphasia is that damaging for us that we can't understand unless a question is posed to us exactly well, which is great with our speech therapist, but it's not great in communication with the world out and about, because people don't speak that way. So I recommend reading aloud, not necessarily newspapers, because they're just so fact-laden and they're not written well, they're not sentence structures very well. And that's why I mentioned books, reading aloud. These are all components, and I also recommend writing down some simple sentences, as I followed up from yesterday's flashcards and writing things down. I do want to bring up apps. Apps are out there and they're wonderful, and I'm not just talking about ACC. I mean puzzles, word puzzle apps where you circle the words and because they're listed, or they give you an association. Now, let's just stick with body parts. They may say, things found on the face, eyes, and you're circling eyes and ears and nose and mouth, and those are really good for association. They're good for words and communication and finding them backwards and finding them diagonal. You can go a little bit next level. These are applications out there. I wrote down wordscapes, puzzle a lot. I found it relaxing in some ways, but also frustrating on some days. There are days that those apps are just not going to work. And that's why I have a lot of things in these daily practices, and maybe that should be a daily practice. But I wanted to bring up, as I talked about word structures and getting your more communication skills, so you can actually communicate with your care partner, you can communicate with your family, you can understand those questions that aren't really questions when they say to you, "What a wonderful day," and you're supposed to say something, but you don't necessarily know that because of aphasia and the difficulty of communication. So I am going to go back to my crossbody movement. Maybe you can do this with me. You can do it sitting down. Again, you can just do it standing. The crossbody movement is a great idea because you're going into different hemispheres. So I got to lay out a lot of daily practice today. But celebrate yourself today. Wishing you a wonderful day. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Hello, hello. Wednesday. My name is Paula. It's so great to see you. It is Wednesday, as I mentioned. My name is Paula. It's Aphasia Awareness Month. In this particular month, I am going live every Monday. This is every day. This is all new for me, as I am a stroke survivor, and I was diagnosed with aphasia, as well as other dynamics in my recovery, as a lot of us do, have a mix of many things going on. The reason why I want to go live every day is to recognize we wear this badge of aphasia, and we should wear it proudly, as the struggle to speak and the struggle to communicate has been one of the most difficult activities for me to overcome. And I wanted to make sure I went live so you knew that my voice was not altered, and this is not fake, and this is not adapted to AI and other programs that might be. As I wanted to just share a little bits about things that we should be celebrating, as we are aphasia stroke survivors, and we do forge through every day. And I'm looking to open up today with our daily practice. Daily practice today, you see me sitting down, but I am looking at to talk about the games and the apps and the programs that are out there. I mentioned one yesterday in regards to words and structures and creating sentences, and as just different apps that are available. But today I'm talking about language skills, programs, games for cognitive function that are for anyone. And they're Luminosity and Constant Therapy were a couple that I had looked at early on in my stroke survivor journey. In my stroke survivor journey, I chose not to. They do cost money, and I want you to be aware of that. However, they are wonderful apps, and they do help, as I studied and looked at, that they do help people with their brain and cognitive functions. And possibly that's something for you. I speak to you as a stroke survivor with aphasia. I speak to you as possibly a caretaker or a care partner of someone, that these are out there. From there, they may also provide groups. I don't know, but I do want to recommend different groups, because knowledge of aphasia and knowledge of stroke awareness is really part of getting it out there. Aphasia was something that obviously it took me by heartache, being unable to communicate again and losing the ability to, well, I couldn't type, I couldn't create words, I couldn't create sentences. Saying words was hard enough, then to create dynamic sentences or communication skills was non-existent. So we become shut down, and I'm asking you to consider the groups and consider the programs that are out there. I noticed different aphasia groups that I've been a part of in my recovery of 5 years. Some of them have partners, care partners with them. That's been very good. I thought that was really great. And others are just aphasia survivors. And that can be more difficult, I think, in my opinion, and more daunting for the speech therapist or whoever's running the program, because you have a Zoom room online of a bunch of people that can't speak. I'm back to my hands. I use my hands and my facial expressions, and as much as I can, more often than ever. And body language is everything. I mentioned it a couple days ago that we become actors and actresses on stage, and we might be on the sideline, we don't have any lines, but boy, we have to feel the emotion in the room. And that's what's happening, I think, in my opinion, of Zoom meetings and activity and trying to be part of a group of people that have aphasia, or just trying to be part of a group, and we're not able to speak and be part of that conversation. It may be just a Zoom group or a Zoom meeting of people that sow or plant gardens, and you want to contribute, and speaking is not your forte. So these programs are out there. Luminosity and Constant Therapy are two in particular, but there are many others. I wanted to mention body language and bring this all together. The body language, I want to bring up a story of what happened to me about a year and a half into my stroke recovery. I'm at a brother's house, and we're having dinner. And I can't walk very well, so I still have my cane, and I'm still not speaking very well at that point, about a year and a half into recovery. And so, he asked me, do you want a chair with arms or without? That was my answer. I don't know. I really didn't know, like, what do I need? I don't know. So he gets me a chair, and it's on the end of the table, and it has arms, and I'm like, okay, and I'm down, and I'm sitting, and they get my meal for me. They my family, organize, because I can't do that process of handing it left and right or do any of that. But which was wonderful, and we're having a great communication, and I'm listening and wearing earplugs, hearing sensitivity, and trying not to hear too much down the end of the table and just hear my area because of focus and that abilities, that limitation that I have to have too much noise. And then I go to get up, and I can't get up. And I literally have my hands back like this, and I'm on the chair, and I can't figure out how to back up the chair. Now, I already knew I didn't know how to step backwards, because for me, standing and walking was hard enough. And then to step backwards was like stepping off Cathedral Edge at Yosemite. I shared that with my doctor, as a matter of fact, when I had to step off the scale, 2 inches, and you have to step backwards. And it was awful. It's an awful experience to have a cerebellum stroke and proprioceptors issues. And I overcame that over time and practice and getting my brain comfortable that I can do this. At the same time, I couldn't get up from my chair, and I'm holding the arms, and I'm going, oh my, oh my. And in that same feeling, I'm realizing the shock of it. So now I can't even say anything, because in anxiety, we can't speak at all. And my another brother of mine's like, are you okay? And I'm looking at him like in panic. And he's like, I'll help you back up the chair. I had no idea. So there's different body language movements that we do. Go do it. Like I said a couple days ago, be the actor, be theatrical, be overdone. But it's part of our communication, because we can't speak it. And then, of course, in anxiety, we certainly can't say anything in our rush or when we're rushing. And I'm just sharing that funny story with you. Fortunately, it leaves family, but I realized I hadn't gone out to dinner. I wasn't going anywhere publicly. But this was with family, and they understood, and they got my body language and helped me out. So consider the apps to help with the cognitive functions. That's what I want to mention. There's plenty out there. Consider if they're right for you or programs are right for you. Of course, discuss it with your medical team. It's Wednesday. I'm going to wish you a wonderful day. Thank you for joining.